In this episode, we are moving away from the printer types most beginners picture first and looking at two kinds that are less common in homes, but still very important in real support work. Thermal printers and impact printers still show up in stores, shipping areas, warehouses, factories, medical settings, front desks, and any place where a business needs fast, dependable paper output for a very specific job. A new technician can get tripped up here because these printers do not behave like laser or inkjet devices, and the wrong assumption can lead to wasted parts, wasted time, and frustrated users who need the printer working right away. These machines are often tied directly to the flow of daily work, which means if the receipt printer stops, a sale may stop, and if the form printer stops, the paperwork behind a process may stop too. Once you understand the media they use, the kind of maintenance they need, and the failure patterns they show, these printers become much easier to support without guessing. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is part of our companion study series. The first book is a detailed study guide that explains the exam and helps you prepare for it with confidence. The second is a Kindle-only ebook with 1,000 flashcards you can use on your mobile device or Kindle for quick review. You can find both at Cyber.Me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A thermal printer creates output by using heat, and that is the first big idea to keep in mind because it explains why so many of its support issues look different from what beginners expect. Many thermal printers are used for receipts, labels, tickets, wristbands, and other short or repeatable jobs where the device needs to be fast, simple, and ready all day. In many cases, especially with receipt printers, there is no ink cartridge and no toner cartridge at all, which surprises people who are used to supporting more familiar printer types. The printer is either heating special paper that changes color when heated, or it is using heat to transfer material from a ribbon onto the label or media. That is why a thermal printer can be quiet, compact, and quick, but it also means the wrong paper, the wrong label stock, or a dirty print path can cause problems that will never be solved by looking for toner or by treating the device like a small office printer. The media used in a thermal printer matters so much because the printer depends on that media to react in the right way under heat. Direct thermal paper and labels are designed to darken when the print head applies heat, which makes them a common choice for receipts and short-term labels. Thermal transfer printing works a little differently because the printer uses heat with a ribbon to place the image onto the label, and that can produce more durable output for labels that need to last longer or survive rough handling. A beginner does not need to memorize every industrial media type, but it is important to understand that ordinary paper is not a substitute for thermal media, and that the wrong roll or label stock can create blank output, weak output, feeding trouble, or smearing that makes the user think the whole device is bad. Many classic support mistakes begin with a simple media mismatch, which is why technicians learn to check the paper or label type early instead of assuming the printer itself is the first thing to blame. Thermal printers usually need simple maintenance, but that maintenance matters a lot because these devices are often used constantly in busy places. The print head, rollers, and sensors can collect dust, paper coating, adhesive residue, and small bits of debris from label stock or torn paper. Over time, that buildup can interfere with heat transfer, paper movement, and media detection, which leads to light print, missing areas, false paper errors, or labels feeding at the wrong position. A technician supports these printers best by keeping the print path clean, checking for sticky buildup, and making sure the printer is using media that is stored properly and has not been damaged by heat, sunlight, or moisture. The maintenance sounds simple, but beginners often skip it because they expect a more dramatic broken part, when the real issue is usually a dirty surface, worn roller, or media problem that has slowly built up through normal daily use. Thermal printer failure patterns are worth learning because they can help a technician narrow down the problem quickly without replacing parts too soon. If the printer produces very light receipts or labels, the cause may be poor media, a dirty print head, incorrect heat settings, or a worn print head rather than a total device failure. If the output is completely blank, that often points to the wrong media being loaded, the media loaded the wrong way, or a print process that is not matching the paper type the printer expects. If there are white lines running through printed areas, the print head may have dirty sections or damaged sections that are no longer heating evenly. If the labels feed too far, stop too soon, or appear misaligned, the The printer may be struggling with media sensing, label gaps, or stock that does not match the configuration being used. These patterns matter because they help a beginner stop thinking in terms of printer works or printer does not work and start thinking in terms of what exact symptom the printer is showing. An impact printer works in a very different way because it creates output by physically striking through an inked ribbon onto paper. This makes it louder and slower than many other printer types, but it also gives it a very useful strength that still matters in business, which is the ability to print through multi-part forms and certain continuous paper workflows. These printers are often found where businesses need duplicate or triplicate paper copies, structured forms, long-running print jobs, or rugged equipment that can keep working in environments where a delicate office printer would not be a good fit. A beginner may hear the sound of an impact printer and think something is wrong because it is much noisier than a thermal receipt printer or a laser printer. In reality, that sound is part of the printing process, and the technician's job is to recognize when the sound is normal and when a change in sound suggests a paper path problem, worn ribbon, or mechanical issue that should be checked more closely. The media used in impact printing is another place where quick recognition helps a great deal. Many impact printers use continuous paper, forms with side feed holes, or multi-part carbonless forms that must stay aligned through the whole print path. The ribbon is also a key part of the printing process because if the ribbon is worn out, dry, loose, or installed badly, the printer may still run but the output will look faint or incomplete. Paper thickness matters too, because these printers are often expected to strike through more than one sheet, and the wrong form set or the wrong paper path adjustment can make the output too weak on the lower copies. A beginner should think of impact printer media as part of the machine's working system, not just as paper put into a tray, because the form length, side holes, ribbon condition, and paper thickness all affect whether the printer can feed correctly and create readable output from start to finish. Impact printer maintenance is often more mechanical than what a beginner expects from a small receipt printer or home printer. The paper path can collect dust, scraps of paper, and residue from repeated feeding, especially when forms are torn off roughly or loaded poorly. The ribbon will need replacement as part of normal use, and if it is ignored too long, the output quality will drop even when the printer's striking mechanism is still working normally. The feed system and tractors that pull continuous paper must stay aligned so the forms move straight instead of skewing sideways or tearing as they advance. In some cases, the print head pins can wear or stick, and that can change the print pattern in a very recognizable way. A technician who understands that impact printers have moving parts doing repeated physical work will be much less likely to waste time chasing software explanations when the true problem is visible wherein the ribbon, feed path, or printhead behavior. Impact printer failure patterns tend to be very readable once you know what to look for. If the whole page is printing faintly, the ribbon is often the first thing to consider because an old ribbon can make even a healthy printer look weak. If there are missing dots or a thin vertical area where characters do not print correctly, that can point to worn or stuck pins in the printhead because the same missing strike pattern appears again and again. If the paper feeds crooked, tears at the side holes, or slips out of alignment, the problem may be in the tractor feed setup, the paper guides, or the media itself rather than in the main printing mechanism. Repeated jams can also come from bent forms, badly stacked continuous paper, or users tearing paper off carelessly and leaving scraps behind. These details matter because an impact printer usually tells a fairly honest story through its output and paper movement, and a technician who pays attention can often identify the likely problem without replacing several good parts first. It helps beginners to compare thermal and impact printers directly because that makes their support logic much easier to remember. A thermal printer is usually quieter, depends heavily on the correct heat-sensitive paper or label stock, and often shows trouble through faded print, missing heated areas, media detection errors, or feed problems. An impact printer is usually louder, depends on a ribbon and correctly aligned paper forms, and often shows trouble through faint striking, missing columns of dots, crooked feeding, torn forms, or repeated mechanical jams. Thermal printers are common where speed, simplicity, and small printed items matter, while impact printers remain useful where businesses still need durable form handling or multiple copies in one pass. Once a beginner can quickly tell which type is sitting on the counter or desk, The next troubleshooting choices become more sensible because the likely causes are very different even though both machines are still called printers. Many support mistakes happen because a technician brings the wrong habits from laser and inkjet devices into these less common printer types. A faded thermal receipt may lead someone to look for a low ink condition that does not exist, while a weak impact printer may lead someone to blame a software setting when the ribbon is clearly worn. Another common mistake is using whatever paper or labels seem close enough, even though media mismatch is one of the fastest ways to create blank output, poor feeding, or unreadable labels. Beginners also sometimes replace the whole printer too quickly when a dirty sensor, bad ribbon, worn roller, or incorrect stock is the real reason the output looks bad. Good support means slowing down enough to ask what kind of printer it is, what media it uses, what changed recently, and whether the symptom matches a normal wear pattern before ordering parts or declaring the device failed beyond repair. These printers matter in business support because they are often tied to fast, repetitive tasks that cannot wait long for a fix. A broken thermal printer at a point of sale, POS, counter can slow down sales, create customer frustration, and force workers into manual workarounds right away. A failed shipping label printer can delay package handling, and a malfunctioning impact printer can disrupt forms, logs, or multi-part paperwork that some businesses still rely on every day. That means support for these devices is not just about print quality and neat output. It is also about keeping a workflow moving in places where delays are very visible and where the people using the printer may not care what the part is called as long as the job gets done again. This is why technicians should respect these printer types even if they seem old or simple, because the business using them usually depends on them in a very direct way. A beginner can save a lot of time by using a very plain way of thinking when one of these printers has a problem. First, identify whether the printer uses heat or striking force, because that instantly changes what kinds of parts and media matter. Next, look at the printed result and the paper movement, because these printers often show the problem clearly if you pay attention to whether the issue is faintness, blank output, repeated gaps, crooked feeding, torn forms, or label position trouble. Then think about what gets used up normally, such as thermal media, ribbons, rollers, or feed components, and whether recent changes in stock or environment might explain the failure. That kind of simple reasoning keeps a technician from making the classic beginner mistake of treating every printer like a small office laser printer with the same kinds of failures. It also builds good habits because it teaches you to match the symptom to the design of the device. Another helpful point is that environment matters a lot with these printers, sometimes more than beginners realize. Thermal media can react badly to heat, sunlight, moisture, and poor storage, which can lead to weak print or paper that seems wrong before it even enters the printer. Labels can leave adhesive residue behind, and busy counters can expose the device to dust, spilled liquids, and constant handling that slowly affects rollers and sensors. Impact printers can suffer from paper dust, rough form handling, bent stacks of continuous paper, and constant vibration from long-running jobs. A technician who notices the work area, the condition of the media, and the way users load and tear paper will often understand the problem faster than someone who only stares at the outside of the device. These are practical machines, and they often fail in practical ways that make sense once you see how they are being used every day. By the end of this topic, thermal and impact printers should feel much less strange and much more predictable. Thermal printers depend on heat, correct media, clean print paths, and good sensing, while impact printers depend on ribbons, aligned forms, steady paper movement, and parts that can still strike cleanly through repeated use. Both types are less common than the printers many beginners see first, but both still matter because businesses use them for jobs that need to keep moving without much downtime. The classic mistakes are usually simple ones, such as using the wrong media, ignoring normal wear parts, or treating the printer like a completely different kind of device. When technicians understand the media, maintenance needs, and failure patterns of these printers, they can support them with much more confidence and avoid wasting money on the wrong parts or wasting time on the wrong explanation.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit DailyCyber.News.